Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Monday, March 3rd. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 501 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. It is Monday. You know what that means. It is another mock draft Monday. Today, it is the trade up for Cam Ward edition. As always, for those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Appreciate your support as always. Of course, thank you to those of you tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. Kicking off another week with another mock draft Cam Ward trade up edition. Also post NFL Combine, the first mock draft since the NFL Combine, of course, took place last week. As always, before we begin, we got to get into our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. If you're looking to get in on any of the sports betting action, March Madness is right around the corner. Check out BetUS. Use my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek, similar to what I just said about BetUS, March Madness right around the corner. And if you want to lock in the best seats for the tournament, check out SeatGeek. And if it's your first time using SeatGeek, use promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off. Look for the green dots. Those are the good deals. You guys know the drill. It's not just sports. It's anything. It's the best in entertainment, plays, concerts, shows, you name it. SeatGeek has it. Many live events. Check them out. $20 off, code Bubs on Sports. And, of course, our friends over at Huga House. You see the hat I'm wearing right now. If you want this hat or any of their awesome selection of new hats and sweatshirts along with originals, check them out. And at checkout, use code Bubs for 15% off any purchase. You'll get your second hat 30% off when you use that code Bubs at checkout. Get yourself some Huga House swag. So here we go, episode 501. It's the first Monday in March. We are another Monday closer to the 2025 NFL Draft, and it's the first mock draft post NFL Combine. And we got a lot of news this week at the NFL Combine, and I felt like today was a good time to do my trade up for Cam Ward edition, as we come out of the NFL Combine and we got a lot of Jets and Cam Ward rumors. We've got a lot of Jets and Cam Ward nuggets. You've got Cam Ward going out himself and saying he's hoping he can be the missing piece to the Jets, or one of the pieces on that Jets offense that we talked about a couple days ago at the Combine. You've also got multiple reports that the Jets have talked to the Titans, have checked in with the Titans about potentially trading up for the number 1 overall pick. Whether or not it will happen this past week, there's certainly been some steam building around it. So today I figured, why not? Let's do the Cam Ward trade up edition. I want to make this clear. Every week I do a different theme. Not every week is what I want to happen, nor do I expect to happen. I don't expect the Jets to trade up for Cam Ward. And I wouldn't really be on the side of trading up for Cam Ward. But as I've said many, many times, if the Jets feel like Cam Ward is a legitimate franchise guy and they love him that much, then you go and make that deal, because a franchise quarterback turns organizations around. If they feel he's that guy, then you go and make the move. That's how I feel on it. I think that's how most Jet fans feel on it. So we did trade up today. I'll throw the trade up here on the screen off of PFF. That's where we do our mock drafts. There's many different ways the Jets can go with this. There's many different potential trade outcomes. This is the trade I came up with that was accepted through PFF. Jets get the number 1 overall pick. They also get the Titans' 4th round pick, 119th overall this year. And the Titans receive from the Jets 7th overall pick. The Jets' 2nd round, 42nd overall pick this year, along with a 1st round pick next year and a 2nd round pick in next year's draft as well, 2026. And that's the risk you run with this, right? You're giving up a lot. You're giving up a haul. You're giving up most likely next year's first. You're obviously giving up this year's first to move up to, 1, of course, that swap. You're also probably giving up this year's second and then potentially a 2nd or maybe a 3rd next year. And maybe you get back a 4th or 5th this year. I was able to get back a 4th round pick this year. So you've got to give up a lot. But if you feel like he's the guy, then you go and do it. And here's a look at Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick. You obviously take Cam Ward. My opinion, many other Jet fans' opinions, many NFL people opinions. Cam Ward's clearly the number 1 quarterback in this draft. You look at his measurables coming out of the combine, 6'2", 219 pounds. Senior, of course, very interesting collegiate career, right? Started his first 2 years at Incarnate Word, low D1 school, then transferred in 2022 to Washington State, where he spent 22 and 23 seasons there, had 2 productive seasons, over 20 touchdowns, well over 3,000 yards, very good seasons, very productive seasons. And then goes to Miami last year, and that's where he really took off. You look at his 2024 numbers, 305 completions on 454 attempts. That's good for 67.2% completion percentage, 4,313 yards, 9.5 yards per completion, 39 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, an 88.7 QBR, and an eye-popping 172-point passer rating. He was one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in college football last year. He was a Heisman finalist. He needs clearly the number 1 prospect in this draft. We've talked a lot about Cam Ward over the last couple of days. I think most people know what to expect from Cam Ward. He's got natural arm talent. He's a natural thrower of the football. He's a guy that likes to take shots. He's a guy with very good arm talent, mobile, very good at improvising. I think that's something that you have to value. In this day and age, in this type of NFL, a guy like Cam Ward goes a very long way with being able to roll out of the pocket, extend plays, improvise. When the play breaks down, you want a guy that can still be able to put together a positive play, get a gain, pick up yards, whether that's with his legs or with his arm, finding somebody open, buying himself time. He did a very good job at that at Miami and really throughout his NFL or his college career. His playmaking ability, that's the biggest thing. I think you want to sum that up. The playmaking ability is very, very prevalent and something that I think is a big, big piece of his game. The arm talent, the playmaking ability, the mobility, all things you want in a quarterback in the modern NFL. Now, you do look at some things with Cam Ward that you don't necessarily love. His ball security. He had a handful of fumbles last year at Miami. He's a guy that, yes, when he can roll out of the pocket, he can do some damage, but he is a guy at times where can kind of hold on to the football pretty loosely and can be pretty reckless with it. Not necessarily in terms of interceptions and stuff, but fumbling. Like, he'll hold on to the ball one-handed in the pocket. He'll get it taken away. He'll try and scramble. Guy comes up from behind him, pops it out. Ball security-wise needs to be a little bit stronger. And I think most people would also agree with Cam Ward. The pocket presence. We've seen some times where he has stood still in the pocket in college. And while that's going to work in college, that's not going to survive in the NFL. You've got to keep your feet moving all the time in the pocket. You need to have good footwork, of course. You don't want to be happy feet in the pocket. We've lived through that, Jeff fans, most recent with Zach Wilson, where his footwork was complete garbage. But you also don't want to stand still because in the NFL, you're going to get killed that way. To put it simply and to put it pretty bluntly. The positives definitely outweigh the negatives. I mean, his numbers last year were off the charts. You look at his PFF grades, they're all in the top 90th percentile of college football. He's the best quarterback in this draft. If you love him and you love that deep ball ability, playmaking ability, improvising ability, all that stuff that he brings, then you go and make the move. You just have to give up a lot. And are the Jets willing to take that risk? Only time will tell. So round 1, pick 1, trade up Cam Ward. Now getting into the rest of this draft. Now, again, the risk you run here is you don't have that second round pick. So your next pick after round 1 is 91 picks later, day 2, later day 2, round 3, pick 92. I'm going to go with a tackle here. Jonah Savainia, out of Arizona. Measurables coming out of the combine, 6'4", 324 pounds. Junior. I actually really like Savainia here out of Arizona. An interesting prospect, and I mentioned this a lot about where the Jets are right now with this offensive line. There's a lot of people that are mocking left tackles to the Jets. And while you can always make the switch from left tackle to right tackle, if the Jets do bring in a veteran and have this left tackle that they take in the middle rounds, sit a year and then turn into a right tackle in 2026 and have that guy be your future, I can understand that. But I personally like the idea of taking a guy that is a right tackle or has experience playing right tackle at the college level, because that is what the Jets need. So many people are like, get the Jets a left tackle. And it's a lot of draft analysts that I don't think fully realize that Olu Fashanu had an excellent year last year, and he is the left tackle of the future, and you need a right tackle. And I prefer to take a guy, whether it's day 2, day 3, whenever that may be, that has some right tackle experience. I'm not saying I'd be mad if the Jets took a left tackle and then molded him into a right tackle, but I think you give yourself a very higher chance of success with this draft pick if you draft a guy who's going to play right tackle, who has already played that position before. And Jonah Savainia has been able to do that. In fact, something I really like is versatility. This is a guy that's played not only right tackle, he's also played left tackle, and he's also got experience at right guard. So a guy that does a little bit of everything, which can be really, really helpful for this Jets team, in my opinion. He also did it pretty well. Last season at a 75.9 Pro Football Focus grade. Allowed 4 sacks, 2 QB hits, 9 QB hurries. The hits and hurries were some of the lowest he's allowed in his career. Now, he didn't allow a hit in his year 1, 2 hits last year. His hurries, he went from 12, 11 to 9. So hurries continued to decrease in year 1. Very good pass blocker. 82.7 Pro Football Focus pass blocking grade. That's upwards near the 90th percentile. He also had a 77.9 true pass set pass block grade, also up in the 90th percentile. The one area he does need to improve is a little bit as a run blocker. Still was above average, but not necessarily his strength. 64.2 Pro Football Focus grade against the run. And occasionally can struggle. His athleticism isn't eye-popping, doesn't pop off the charts, not the most athletic, and can at times struggle against bull rushers and some of those speed guys. However, has very good awareness. His frame and his size overall is very, I think, NFL ready. And we mentioned the versatility. Last year played 709 snaps. 345 came at left tackle, 364 came at right tackle. The previous year, he saw 195 snaps at right guard, 693 at right tackle. His first season, 790 snaps all at right guard. So has transitioned from right guard freshman year, sophomore year right guard, right tackle. Last year mainly right guard, but also mixed in 340 plus snaps at left tackle for kind of a healthy mix, pretty balanced, 345 at left tackle, 364 at right tackle. I really like Jonah Savainia. Now, you see where he's projected to go. Not many mock drafts you see him necessarily landing to the Jets here at pick 92, round 3. But if that happens, you get a guy that's got experience at right tackle. You get a guy with a lot of upside, needs some work in the run game, but a guy that can provide versatility and, yes, plays a position, has already played right tackle, which is your position of need. You don't need to worry about trying to mold him over to right tackle. He's got experience already doing that. So that's who we take here, round 3, pick 92. Moving on now, round 4, staying on the offensive side of the football. So I guess if you want to call this fixing the offense type episode. Don't worry. The defense is coming. I will not ignore the defense. The defense is coming, just the way the board fell here. And again, not all these picks necessarily is exactly what I would do. It's just so happened how the board fell and how, the mock draft, all the pieces fit into the puzzle in this mock that I conducted earlier today. So round 4, pick 109, Isaiah Bond, wide receiver out of Texas. I know he's catching a little bit of, heat right now from the media and from fans, as, he was going to say he was going to break Xavier Worthy's record of the 40-yard dash and didn't really come close to doing it. I think he ended with, a 4.39. So was pretty far off from doing that. I know he's catching some heat from the NFL media, but I don't think that should take away of the prospect that he is. 5'11", 180 junior, background here, spent 2 seasons at Alabama in 2022 and 2023. Very productive season in 2023. 2022 was mainly a depth piece. Didn't see a whole lot of action. Only 12 catches and 220 yards and in a touchdown. Not a ton. 2023 saw a lot more. And then 2024 was another productive season for him where he transferred to Texas. He's a good, solid receiver. Something I like about Isaiah Bond is he's similar to what we just got done talking about, the tackle position. In his 3 years in college, he played a mix of both outside and in the slot. You look at his snap breakdown. 203 snaps he played in his freshman year. 116 came out wide, 87 came in the slot. 2023, he played 345 snaps. 202 came in the slot, 141 came outside. And in 2024, he played 319 snaps, 72 came in the slot, 245 came out wide. So he has a lot of experience playing in both the slot and outside, which I think is key. This Jets receiving core needs a lot of help. It's Garrett Wilson and a bunch of question marks. You want to say a bunch of nobodies? That fits it as well. Having a guy that can come in on day 3, potential day 2 option, early day 3 here, and have that ability to play both the slot and outside, I think is important. And then you're able to see however the rest of the pieces fall in place for this receiving core. That's something that I like about Bond and some of the potential that I like. Last year, he is probably stronger in the slot because you look at 2023's numbers. He had his most yards, he has most receptions, and that year he played the most he's ever played in the slot. He's more built like a slot, but he does still have that ability to play outside, which I think is important and can go a long way. You look at his career numbers, 99 receptions, 1,428 yards, 10 touchdowns. Last year's numbers in his 1 year at Texas, 34 receptions, 540 yards, 5 touchdowns, which was a career high. Some of his strengths, explosive, dynamic athlete. I know the 40 wasn't exactly eye-popping in terms of what he said he was going to do with Xavier Worthy. But Texas does have a knack for bringing, getting guys out of there that have speed, have athleticism, can blow by you. Very good route runner. Kind of one of the underrated things about him. You talk a lot about the athleticism, talk a lot about just his dynamic ability and his explosiveness out of his breaks and when he has the ball in his hand. Kind of an underrated, yak ability. And just his ability to make guys miss, but also a very, very strong route runner, which I think is another thing too that's a positive. Good route runner, can play outside, can play inside. Wherever you have him, you can trust him to even just watching some of his tape, execute the routes, have that ability to kind of gain an edge on the corner that he's up against. Something I think could go a long way in the NFL. And he's a big vertical threat. When you look at this Jets offense, and let's just say in a world where they end up with Cam Ward, his ability to throw the ball deep, his deep ball ability is a huge part of his game, arguably the biggest part of his game. Isaiah Bond's a vertical threat. You look at Tyrod Taylor, if that happens, if Tyrod Taylor's starting, right, just looking down the line of quarterbacks, there's some options here for the Jets where they can push the ball downfield. They could take some chances deep, whether they trade up and get a Cam Ward who likes to do that. Tyrod Taylor, we know, likes to do that. Bond would fit that billing of a vertical threat out of, the slot or outside. Some of the things that he needs to work on, some of the weaknesses. This shouldn't come as a surprise. He's 5'11", 180, not the biggest contested catch guy, and is undersized and could use some help as a run blocker. Again, 5'11", 180, not necessarily your big, strong wide receiver that's going to get up on physical corners and dominate and win 50-50 balls and make those 80-20 plays. Not necessarily a guy that's going to be a huge blocker. But again, you get to the NFL level, put some size on, that could potentially improve. So that's round 4. Go the wide receiver route. Now, 10 picks later, this is also a part of the trade from Tennessee. You get the 119th overall pick on top of the number 1 overall pick. So 118 picks later from the Cam Ward pick, we'll take a safety here, start to get some defensive help. Jonas Sanker out of Virginia. I love this pick. This is probably one of my favorite picks and a guy that I've been looking at for a while. I like a couple safeties in this draft. I like a lot post day one. I know Malachi Starks is, of course, a big name, out of Georgia, number 1 safety, but Nick Amarui was excellent at the combine. Actually wrote an article on him. He, of course, is excellent safety that feels like is going to start to rise up draft boards big time. I also like Jonas Sanker a lot, or Sanker rather, and I also like Xavier Watts a lot as well. Couple guys that I really like at the safety position. I think this is actually a pretty deep safety class, which is a positive, I think, for this Jets team. Even Andrew Makuba from Texas, Lathan Ransom from Ohio State. Some of the names that I've mocked just in drafts I've done on my own. But Jonas Sanker is a guy that I really like, and a guy that has fallen to where the Jets could be looking for that safety range a lot. You're probably looking at Sanker either on that 3rd round, 92nd overall pick, or your 4th round pick, 109. And that's why I really like this pick for the value and the theme that we did today of trade up, where if you can get him this late, I think you're legitimately getting a 3rd round talent in the 4th round, a day 2 talent on day 3, which I think is really good value. He's 6 foot, 206 pounds, senior out of Virginia. He's taken off the last 2 years. Some of his numbers just fly off the charts. 205 total tackles the last 2 years at Virginia. 139 solo tackles. Back-to-back years, he has led the conference in solo tackles. He's also led the conference combined, of course. 13 tackles for loss, 15 passes defended, and an interception. Last year, 98 total tackles, 66 solo tackles, 4 passes defended, 2 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, and that 1 interception. He was first among safeties in the ACC in total tackles in 2023 and then 2024. He also led Virginia in both 2023 and 2024 in tackles. So this is a guy that's a tackling machine in the ACC and amongst the rest of the defense at Virginia. One of the better players in the ACC defensively during his 4 years, especially over the last 2 seasons. The Jets desperately need safety help. Whether or not, however high or low they're willing to pay a free agent guy, whether or not they're willing to bring back a guy like a Tony Adams or even an Isaiah Oliver, we'll see if that happens. You still need help, though, and you're still going to need probably 2 new starters. Jonas Sanker is a guy that I think has a very high ceiling. Some of the things that he needs to work on, his eyes can get stuck in the backfield in zone coverage where he's reading too much of what the quarterback's doing and he loses sight of his zone, loses sight of his guy. He also, while the tackling and his ability to chase guys down and, again, some of his strengths, right? Good versus the run, collapses running lanes. He does have a tendency to miss tackles at times where, kind of like Quincy Williams, if you remember his first year with the Jets, he would overrun tackles in a way. He kind of wouldn't necessarily know how to slow himself down, square up, and be able to put together good technique and get a guy down. That's kind of his problem in a way, where very good at tackling, gets high numbers at tackles, very good at collapsing running lanes and shooting down gaps and clogging gaps, but sometimes can overrun those. And I think we saw Quincy Williams over the years develop. You give a guy time in the NFL to grow, those things typically get ironed out. I would also say this too, very versatile. You watch some of his film, this sticks out to you. Has a very good ability to play both two high safety and nickel, which I think is solid, right? I like guys that are versatile coming out of the draft. Jets could use some versatility in the secondary. Jonas Senker provides that. I think this is a very good value pick. I don't know if he would fall this far, but in this scenario, he did. I think if you get him on day 3, that is great value for a guy that could very easily go mid to later day 2. So that's our round 4, pick 119 pick. So 2 4th-round picks now in the books. Moving on here to our final 4 picks. 5th round, pick 145. We've already talked about this prospect. Again, I like to try and pick different prospects each episode. It just so happened the way the board fell, he was really the only tight end available at this time that was worth taking in this position. And that's Mitchell Evans. We talked about him a lot in the last episode. 6'5", 260 pounds, senior out of Notre Dame. Started to take off in 2023 and 2024. 772 receptions, 843 yards over the last 2 seasons. Last year had 421 receiving yards on 43 catches. Football IQ very high. Red zone threat, which I think is important for this Jets team. They've got to be more productive across an entire season in the red zone. It is crazy how poor that the Jets have been in the red zone. It's so crazy. This team has not been able to get up to, forget NFL standards just in general on offense, but my God, in the red zone, it's like pulling teeth trying to watch this team score at times. So you get a guy that's quality in the red zone, and he's also a very good blocker, and that's good for the scheme. I think you're going to look at a tight end. I think the Jets are going to find themselves in a situation this offseason where you take a receiving tight end, and then you get that blocking tight end. Whoever that is, whether that blocking tight end comes through the draft and the receiving tight end comes in free agency like a Juwan Johnson or somebody else, or vice versa. You get your blocking tight end in free agency and then your receiving tight end in the draft like a Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green, who I love. Just so happened here he was taken before we could get our 3rd round pick underway. Again, the risk you run with trading up, you leave yourself a pretty big hole not having that 2nd round pick. But Evans here, 5th round, I think it's solid value. Some of the weaknesses, his route tree needs improvement. He does have injury history, tore his ACL, and not a huge yak guy. He's primarily a blocker. He does have the receiving upside, right? You can if you can improve the route tree, I think the yak will improve. But primarily your blocking guy. So you take an Evans here, very good blocker, high football IQ, is a red zone threat. And then you get your receiving tight end free agency. That could be the way the Jets approach this if this is the pick here in round 5. 13 picks later, we're going to go back to the well on defense. Round 5, pick 158, Kobe King, linebacker out of Penn State. Jets linebacker is a sneaky need for the Jets. Again, it's not being talked about a ton. But we talked about it on here last week. Jeffrey Bossa we took out of Oregon. This week, you take Kobe King. Kobe King's, I think, a very underrated prospect. He's a guy, to me, that has a pretty high ceiling You watch some of his tape, you look at some of his numbers, right? Penn State in a relatively deep playoff run last year in the college football playoff. You saw a lot of him as well. He's a name that I would look for here in these later rounds for the Jets. Whether or not Sherwood comes back, still unknown. We'll see. Seems like there could be mutual interest, which would be great. Even in a world, though, where Sherwood comes back, you could still use some of that depth. Mosley's most likely gone. To get a third linebacker, maybe a guy that can be a piece on special teams. Kobe King can come in here and provide that. 6'1", 236 pounds, redshirt junior. Some also very impressive just counting statistical numbers. 97 total tackles last year, and his 53 solo tackles were both second on the team. He had 9 tackles for loss, pass defended, has gotten better in each of his 4 seasons. First year didn't play a whole lot. Year 2 played more. Year 3 played more. Year 4 took off. Right, 41 tackles in 2022, 59-97. He also had 3 sacks this year, so the pass rushing ability was a little bit more on display than in years past. Only had 1.5 sacks in his first 3 years, had 3 in 1 season last year. So really took off. Very good against the run, which I think is important. Jets need to be better against the run. High football IQ, downhill tackling, and his speed from a downhill perspective, I think, is impressive, which is something that I like a lot. Kind of similar to like a Quincy Williams with that downhill speed where he could just blow up plays, blow up run plays, deliver some big hits. Kobe King can provide some of that. Last year had an 82.9 run defense grade. Again, that's one of his biggest strengths. And an 83.6 PFF grade. His numbers are very, very good. An 11.8% missed tackle rate, which was above average. So they didn't miss a ton of tackles. That's his strength, is against the run. He's a run stuffer. He's a run stopper. His weakness is coverage. Not great in coverage. Similar to a lot of other guys, can tend to get caught with his eyes in the backfield and let slants and mesh routes in front of him to develop and kind of miss his assignments. And pass rushing as well. His pass rushing ability doesn't fly off the charts, but he did have a career high in sacks. Now, you're not asking him to go out there and be your stud pass rusher. Jets got to rebuild that defensive line. King would be your guy that you hopefully can be able to stop the run. And Quincy Williams and Sherwood are your more do-it-all guys. So that's round 5. 2 more picks here, round 6. Some of you might be thinking, where is the defensive line? Are we going to draft a defensive lineman? Yes. For those of you that want to see that, because I want to see it, we're going to get that right now. We're going 2 defensive linemen back-to-back here. First, round 6, pick 187. We're going to go Tim Smith out of Alabama. 6'4", 302 pounds, senior. Spent all 5 years of his collegiate career at Alabama. So a very, very experienced defensive lineman. I will also say this about Tim Smith. Just a very solid career at Alabama. Durability and stepping on day one and playing right away was big for him. 51 games he played out of a possible 51. So every game of his career, he was out there. Impressive stuff at 5 years, all 5 years at Alabama. His 2024 numbers, 35 total tackles, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. Similar to what we just got done talking about Kobe King. Really, both of these defensive linemen, 2 run stuffers, very good against the run. Also versatile. He was able to play multiple different spots in the defensive line. Last year, played 268 snaps on the B gap, 106 snaps over the tackle. He also played 74 snaps outside the tackle, so got a pretty good amount of snaps at both over the tackle and outside tackle. B gap, of course, is primary position as that run stuffer, but he did actually grade out pretty well as a pass rusher. For that not being his strength, he graded out pretty well. Now, he had a 73.7 PFF grade overall, but his pass rush grade was 64.7, which was above average, kind of in that like 60th percentile. And then he had a 75.9 true pass set rush grade, which is also well above average. And his 8.3 pass rush win rate was well above average. He had a run stop rate of 66.9% and a 78.9 run defense grade. So, yes, he is better against the run, but I wouldn't necessarily say his pass rushing is a weakness. I would more so say there just wasn't a bunch of production in college. You look at his college numbers from a pass rushing perspective, he only had, 6.5 sacks in college. In his 5 years there, that's not much. That is kind of one of his weaknesses would be like his pass rush production. He did have a high this year in hurries with 8, but the overall production wasn't there. He's also not the most athletic, but he's very good against the run, versatility, and you want to throw durability in there. I don't think this is a bad option for a mid-round or late-round swing. A guy that can come in, bigger body, can come in, provide some of that run stuffing ability, which the Jets honestly have been missing. Missed last year, I would say. Moving on, final pick here, round 6, 208. We're going to go back to the defensive line and that's Cam Horsley out of Boston College. Also, similar to Tim Smith, 5 years in college football, this time at Boston College. Senior, 6'3", 312 pounds. Actually was born in New Jersey. Went to high school in New Jersey as well. Now, he did go South Jersey, so not necessarily North Jersey, more south by Philly, but still Jersey product. 2024 numbers, 42 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3 passes defended. You look at Horsley the similar way you look at Tim Smith, kind of a run stuffer. I kind of went with that theme here where I figured, you know what, I took Tim Smith, last pick in the draft. I'm like, you know what, why not go with another run stuffer, load up on guys that can stop the run, and then maybe get more of your pass rusher, interior defensive lineman in free agency, if that's the route the Jets want to take. That's what we kind of took here. Very good against double teams. That big frame, that big body is able to do that. And his run stopping is a strength. He's also, unlike Tim Smith, 2 very similar builds. Smith a little taller, but Horsley's actually a lot more athletic than Smith, and has very good quickness, lateral quickness for his size. I actually personally like Horsley a little bit better than Smith. Just think he's a little bit more athletic, like I mentioned, and I also think just slightly better overall. I just think he's a little bit better than. Grades out a little bit better against the run, grades out a little bit better overall. They're interchangeable. You want to take Horsley, then Smith. I like them both. I'd probably like Horsley a little bit more, just watching some of his tape pops off a little bit more. But either way, PFF grades Horsley a little bit lower, whatever. We get both of them. It doesn't matter. They're 2 kind of late round flyers. Similar to Smith, again, limited pass rush arsenal, get off speed. Has good lateral quickness, not the quickest get off, which isn't surprising for a guy that's 6'4", 306 pounds, and more of a run stopping guy. But the Jets need defensive line help, and these 2 guys can provide some of that. So that's another mock draft. Let's throw it up here on the screen. I'll admit PFF didn't love it. They don't love it because of the trade. You got the trade there at the top. Round 1, pick 1, Cam Ward. That's a C-. Round 3, pick 92, Jonas Savania. That's a B. Isaiah Bond, B. Jonas Sanker, A. Mitchell Evans, B-. Kobe King, C+. Tim Smith, A. And Cam Horsley, B+. So C overall. Again, not necessarily a draft I would do. I would not trade up, but if that's the Jets' choice and they love Cam Ward that much, then you go and do it. And you have to trust that Muji and Glenn find the right guy. But in this draft, hypothetically, you get your franchise quarterback. I like Jonah a lot out of Arizona, Savania. I think the ability for him to play right guard, also have experience at left tackle. Most importantly, that experience at right tackle, I think could go a long way. Jonas Sanker, I like a lot. PFF likes that pick as well in A. Isaiah Bond, they're fine with that. B, wide receiver. I think it's fine value for where you're at. Not my top choice, but that was what's available on the board. I think his versatility is certainly intriguing. Mitchell Evans, don't love the Kobe King pick. I also think PFF doesn't really quite recognize the need at linebacker for the Jets or the potential need. So sometimes in this case where you don't necessarily draft for needs, not going to be graded out as well. But I think linebacker is a little bit of a larger need than some think. So Kobe King and then 2 defensive linemen late actually graded out pretty well. There was Smith. The biggest things that hurt was a C- on Cam Ward, which isn't surprising because you traded up and none of the quarterbacks that you take first overall grade out very well because it's first overall pick and you're taking the 20th overall prospect. But either way, that's a mock draft. If the Jets came away with that and they feel Cam Ward's the guy, I'd be totally okay with it. But we'll see if that actually happens. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Would you trade up for Cam Ward? Do you think they trade up for Cam Ward? And overall, what are your thoughts on that mock draft? Do you like it? Don't like it? I'm not offended. If you hate it, let me know why. Love to have some discussions in the comments. It's mock draft season. A lot of debating and talking. That's what makes it all great. Every fan's got their opinions, and we're all just hoping to try and find the best prospects for this team that can help this team win. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like this draft, don't like it. What would you have done differently? You have your own mock draft that you want to throw in there. Leave it all down below. I'll respond to all of them, let you know my thoughts. And yes, we'll have a lot more content coming your way the rest of the week. Until next time, JETS, 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 Jets.